Hi, it's Michael Ogechi Abbey with Enterprise Express Tax Service. Today, I'm talking about something that might be a little humorous, and that's because I do get asked this question not just once, twice, but quite often. Okay, so we're talking about deductions, and we're talking about tax deductions that might sound weird, but sometimes there may be a possibility that you could, in some way, either take that deduction or take a maybe organize yourself in such a way that the deduction may make sense. Okay, and please, as I explain this, just know that whatever I attempt to explain or through my videos, at the end of the day, my goal is to ensure that you are staying in line with the rules and the obligations that the IRS expects us to follow. Okay, so let's talk a bit about tax deduction. So I recently came back from a vacation from the great state of Florida, and we went with my family. We went to Disney World. We've been there a couple of times, but if you've been there, you know that there's never enough of going to Disney World. Sometimes we go to Universal, sometimes Disney World. We've been to SeaWorld once, I think. And I think one time we also went to Busch Gardens, which is in Tampa in Florida. But anyway, it's always a great experience. We always have a wonderful time whenever we go to Florida. Occasionally we drive, and occasionally we take the train. If I'm gonna throw in a plug for Amtrak, I'm gonna throw in a plug for the Amtrak Auto Train. The Auto Train with Amtrak takes you and your vehicle, and it leaves from Lorton in Virginia and goes straight to Sanford, which is right next to Orlando. It's an overnight trip, leaves Lorton around 4 p.m. in the afternoon, gets to Sanford at around 9:30, 10 a.m. in the morning. It takes you and your vehicle. Of course, you pay for that. If you buy at certain seasons when there's a sale, you could get a good rate. But if you buy it when it's full price, it can get quite pricey. So just, bear that in mind. Anyway, back to taxes. Now, could I possibly deduct that portion, the amount that I spent? All right. Now, this time around, we flew. So could I deduct the monies that I spent on airfares? Could I possibly deduct the monies that I spent on buying the attraction tickets, Disney tickets, Universal? Is that a possibility? All right. So let me throw a scenario at you. Every year, the IRS does a conference. They call it an IRS yearly tax conference. That conference is for tax professionals who, the IRS does a bunch of continuing education seminars. They give you updates on what's coming up for the following tax year. And it's just a very good way or avenue for those of us who are in the tax business to stay up to date with what's going on in the tax preparation, tax advisory, industry. So it's really good, and it is a working conference. Anytime you go, you're going there under the umbrella of your business, because you're there for business. It's not pleasure. The locations of these tax conferences are varied. New York, Washington, D.C. They didn't do one in Washington, D.C. this year. They almost always do one in Florida. Usually there's one in, somewhere in on the West Coast. I've never really seen one in California. I've always seen one in Orlando. Always. Pretty much every time I see the lineup of locations, Orlando's always one of those places that the tax conference is held. The conference usually lasts over the course of between 3 to 4 days. All right. here's why I'm coming at with this. All right. So supposing I take a vacation, I go to Orlando with my family, okay? And I, attend the conference. All right. So let's say the conference starts at 8 a.m. in the mornings, finishes at, say, 4 p.m. in the afternoons. Maybe I decide to leave early. And then when I leave early, I decide to meet up with my family and go over to Disney. They usually close at about 9 p.m. or so. Okay. Am I mixing business with pleasure? Can I deduct the cost of my vacation since it's technically also a business trip? All right. So here's the answer. You cannot, if you're deducting the cost of the trip, the primary motive, the primary purpose of your trip to Florida must be for that business conference. All right. So that's the basic rule that the IRS will go by. Now, is it possible that in the course of that, you decide to visit Universal or Disney for a couple of hours on one of those days, maybe two of those days? Sure, sure. I mean, it's not, you can do that, but you technically cannot write off the entire cost of your vacation under the guise that, hey, whilst I was in Orlando, I was also attending a business conference. No, you can't. You can't do that. Now, some people would argue and say, yes, I would rather err on the side of caution and just say, I'm not going to do that. So that's my clear advice on this part, in the sense that the IRS requires that the primary purpose of what you're going there to do, has to be business related if you're going to write off those costs. All right. Now let's talk a little bit more about other types of deductions that you can use in the course of preparing your tax returns. All right. Now, if you're a sole proprietor, and I think I've covered this in other areas, but I'm going to go over it again. If you're a sole proprietor, you do not have to be necessarily a single member LLC. You could be a sole proprietor who does not have a company, but you do business, and maybe you get paid with a 1099. And even if you don't get paid with a 1099, maybe you get paid otherwise with a check. All right, and then you put it into your sole proprietor bank account. I would always recommend having a bank account. It's very important that you have some kind of bank account if you're running any kind of business, even if you're not incorporated. What that does is it gives you a way to document your business income. All right. A lot of times when you get audited or examined by the IRS, where problems usually come up, excuse me, is if you're not able to document the income. Where's it coming from? Where is it going to? Now, if you have a sole proprietor business account, and hopefully with a debit card attached, that way you can run all your expenses, all your business expenses on that card, flowing through that account. It just makes it so much more easier when you're asked questions about the source of the income or about even the deductions that you're making. You will be able to just pull up the statement on that account and say, hey, this is the account that I use. And that's pretty easy. The problem most people have is when you start commingling. You commingle your personal expenses and you commingle your business expenses. No, that's not a good thing to do. Do not commingle those expenses. All right. And now I'm on this tangent. Again, I'm going to mention this again. I know I've always said it. You want to take a good look at the Schedule C, IRS Form Schedule C. What the Schedule C is a form that the IRS has that allows you to document your business income, but also allows you to document your business expenses. All right. And that's a good thing to do. I always advise read through the Schedule C and understand it. And even if you need a tax professional, even if you have to pay them to explain the ins and outs of the Schedule C, it's definitely worth your time. The Schedule C gives you so many avenues to write off your business expenses. And the good thing is it kind of gives you a good guideline of what can be written off and most likely what cannot be written off as well. But what you'll find by studying the Schedule C is you have more than enough areas there to write off business expenses as long as you understand how to do it correctly. And if you don't understand how to do it correctly and you do your own taxes, then by all means, please engage a tax professional who does understand it so that you don't run afoul of the Internal Revenue Service. Okay. All right, so that's my spiel for the day. I wanted to talk about expenses and some of the more funny ones, but still, a legitimate question. Can you deduct expenses if you go on vacation? And in the course of that vacation, you also attend business meetings or business conferences, which a lot of people do. Okay, and I wanted to throw some light on that. There's lots of information online as well. So if you doubt anything that I'm saying, please go online, do your verifications, and if there's any way in which I've misspoken, please send me a comment, send me a message, and I definitely will look that over again. Once again, my name is Michael Lugechi Abbey. Now, if you found this video to be helpful and you liked it, two things. I would like you to subscribe to this channel because we are attempting to grow this channel beyond where we are. And I would also like you to like the video. And while you're there, take your time and look through all our other videos. I think they're quite informative, and I think you could get quite a bit from them. And feel free to share the videos to colleagues, friends, and family, okay? So Michael Lugechi Abbey, Enterprise Express Tax Service, based in Bowie, Maryland. We do taxes across the whole entire 50 states of the United States. We do individual taxes. We also do business taxes as well. We also set up companies and 501(c)s and nonprofits as well. Michael Lugechi Abbey signing off. Bye.